Hey guys, it's Nikki Vox here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. More specifically, welcome to my very first YouTube video. I'm very scared, I'm very nervous, but most of all, I'm excited, and Pem just cancels that out. But before I dive into the Hello Kitty murders, I want to take a quick 30 seconds to talk about my channel for like a quick second. Um, so basically, this channel is mostly going to consist of true crime, but eventually I'd like to add some anime reviews, some show reviews, because I love watching things. That's what my day consists of, watching anime, shows, and true crime podcasts and YouTube videos all the time. So eventually we will get there, but right now I'm sticking to true crime. Okay, so another thing I feel like I have to add is a very big disclaimer, trigger warning. This is a very intense video. This video is not for the lighthearted. The details to this case are very gruesome. This is the fourth most gruesome case in Hong Kong history. Literally, number fourth. And it's a lot. So here we go. Trigger warning, this video contains details of rape, torture, beating, and murder. I want to tell you that these details are not simple details. I'm going to dive deep into it. So if you have to click out of the video, I completely respect you and I understand. Things are hard. And I guess here I go. Time to dive into the video. Before going into the details of the actual case, I wanted to tell you guys a little background information on the victim because I feel like she deserves to be more than just the victim of such a gruesome crime. She was her own person. Although there isn't a lot of background information, I'm going to share with you what I found out. So, her name is Fen Men Yi. Fen Men Yi was abandoned by her family when she was very young. She ended up living in an all-girls home until she was 16. At the age of 16, she was kicked out because that's when China believes that you can fend for yourself. Um, this life led her to drug addiction. Drug addiction led her to prostitution, petty crimes, drug dealing to get money for this drug addiction. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that she also had a child, and this child, the father isn't confirmed, but it's said to have been one of her former clients. It's time to dive into the story. Okay, so in 1997, Fan Man Yi was 23 years old and she was working at a nightclub as a hostess where she also exchanged sex for money. In this club, she met a man named Chan Man Lok, who was a member of the Triad. Now, if you don't know who or what the Triads are a very dangerous Chinese organized crime group that the government allows to do as they please because the government everywhere is corrupt. But let me continue. They instantly hit it off, and he became one of her regulars, and they saw each other often, all the time, and they had a good dynamic. But there was a day that Fen Man Lee was very desperate and she saw his wallet and she took the money that was in it. There was 4,000 Hong Kong dollars, and that is the equivalent to 400 US dollars. And she left the nightclub and she never returned because she knew these were dangerous men. And she said, it's better for me to walk the street than for me to stay at this club. And sadly, Chan Man Lok figured out that she stole money from him and he sent two of his most trusted goons after her. Now, I have to read the names off of the paper because I don't know how to pronounce things and I suck at pronouncing things. I told you, I think I said it before in this video, I have a speech impediment. So, you know. So, he got Long Wai Lun and Long Wang Shou to go after her and find her, and eventually they did. And when they did, Chan Man Lok decided that he was gonna be so kind to give her two options. Either she paid him back the $4,000 with 10,000 Hong Kong dollars in interest, or she would go with him and be a prostitute for a bunch of men until he thinks that she paid her dues while they pay him. So, sadly enough, she did not have the money up front, and they ended up kidnapping her and taking her to an apartment owned by the triads. I can't continue this story without introducing another character, and this character is a 13-year-old girl whose identity remains sealed for her own protection. She was the 13-year-old girlfriend to a 34-year-old triad member, and listen, I know. But anyways, some people said that they thought that she maybe wasn't really his girlfriend and she was a prostitute who he took care of, and that the only reason she went along with it and that he brought her to the apartment was to show her what would happen if she ever crossed him. But don't quote me on it. I don't know if it's the truth. So please do not quote me on it. If you remember what the agreement was, it was that she would be a prostitute and he would get all the money that she would make until he felt that she paid her dues. And from the first day, they went back on their word. They beat her and raped her for hours and hours. And later on, it got worse. And I just want to give another little warning right here because it's about to get very explicit. So, it started off with beating, just fists, and then weapons were introduced. It was metal pipes, bats, kitchen utensils. It was a lot that was included, and even more that I will say later on in the video. And they would do this for hours and hours and hours, to the point that they would just torture her and they would laugh at her while they were torturing her. They would burn straws and put them on the soles of Fen Men Yi's feet, to burn it, to cause pain. They would burn her feet directly when they would get bored. They would also pour hot, boiling oil on her skin and just boil her skin off completely. Another thing that I read that I couldn't believe was the fact that they made her pretend that she enjoyed it, or else they would beat her more. She would have to smile and tell them that she liked it in order to refrain from getting tortured even more. She would have to eat feces. They made the 13-year-old girl poop in a box, and they made Fen Men Yi eat it, and they would also make her eat her own feces. The men would all gather around her and pee on her, and they would make her drink it. Eventually, they got bored, and they decided that it's time to turn it up a notch, and they got electrical cords from the ceiling and they tied her up, and her feet were barely touching the floor. Only the tippy toes were scratching the floor, which I think is crazy. She was like that for days. And when the men got bored of torturing her, because, you know, it's a game to them, they would go and sit right next to the body and play video games. Yes, you heard it right, video games. Other details of what had happened to her are that they burned and electrocuted her genital area, and they also bit chunks out of her breast. Yes, bit chunks with their teeth. And a lot of the information given, all of the information given actually, came from the 13-year-old girl, but she wasn't there every single day, every single moment, and it's believed that the things that happened when she wasn't there are even worse than the things that she saw and she was there for. So I can't start to believe what else they did to her. Eventually, the torture, the beatings, and the rape caught up to her, and her body was done. And because her body was done, bruised, burned, cut, the men that had paid to have sex with her no longer wanted to pay to have sex with her because she wasn't desirable to them. And instead of letting her go because the contract is over, he decided, no, you know what? I'm going to keep her because I'm having too much fun torturing this woman. She was beaten and tortured so badly that eventually she stopped moving and the men decided that they had no use for her anymore and that she was just boring and no fun. And it's still unknown if they killed her or if she died from natural causes or an overdose because no body was found to do an autopsy on. And the next day, when the 13-year-old girl went over to the apartment, she went to the bathroom and she found the woman's body laying in the bathtub dead. And she had cuts all over her, and there was pus coming out. They were infected from the food that they would put in the cuts. They would put food in the cuts, they would put dirt in the cuts, and her body was just completely done. And she was oozing gunk out of her cuts even after death. And eventually, Chan Man Lok had an idea on how to dispose her body. He said her body would be easier to dispose if we cut it into little pieces. And that's exactly what Chen Man Lok did. And it's not clear if he used a saw or a butcher knife because I saw on two different sources two different things, so not sure. But he cut her up into little pieces and then he decided that he was going to boil the flesh off of the bones to make it easier to dispose, to so that you can't track it. So on the same stove that he was boiling the flesh off of Fen Man Yi's bones, he was cooking dinner on the same stove. Can you believe that? Basically, they threw away everything, all of her body parts except for her teeth, some internal organs, and her head. Her head was later also boiled and they cut up a Hello Kitty mermaid plushie and they put her head in there, her skull in there, and they sewed it back up. And that's the main reason why the story has the name The Hello Kitty Murders, but there's like a little bit more to it, and I'll get to that eventually. So in the end, she was 14 at this time. She was no longer 13, and the girl went to the police station and she said that she was being haunted. And the police normally don't take their time out to listen to this, but she seemed very, 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 very not in the right space of mind. There was something wrong with her. So they decided to hear her out. And she said that there was a woman in her 20s covered in blood following her and haunting her. And she said that she thought that the only reason or the only way to get rid of her is to confess and go to the police. So that's what she did. And she said that she thought it was Fen Man Yi's spirit haunting her. And she basically opened up to the police about everything and she told them everything. And exchange for protection, she testified against Chan Man Lok and the two other men. And this is the other part of the Hello Kitty murder part. And when they went to the actual house that everything happened in, it was filled with Hello Kitty memorabilia. Like Hello Kitty sheets, Hello Kitty curtains, Hello Kitty silverware, Hello Kitty towels, etc. There was so much Hello Kitty in that house. And I think that's so creepy. In a triad home, why do they have Hello Kitty everywhere? That's a little messed up. It makes you think. When they went to the house, they found the organs in the bags, and that was enough evidence to trace back to the men, and they were convicted. Um, they were convicted of manslaughter, not of murder, because of the fact that there was no body. They couldn't do an autopsy, and they said that their intent was not to kill her, but to torture her. And she could have died of an overdose. She could have died of the torture. There was no proof that they killed her. So they gave all three men manslaughter with the possibility of parole in 20 years. Can you believe that? Anyways, that's the end of my first YouTube video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell me what you thought about the case. Tell me your opinions, theories. Do you think it was murder, or do you think she died, or do you think she OD'd? How'd it go? What happened? I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on everything. So this is officially me saying peace out, and please come back for my next video.